Okay, so we're going to begin. We're still holding in Perek Aleph of Kohelet. Towards the end, we'll be finished with Perek Aleph today. Many people have expressed themselves that if they only could relive their lives, if they could only do something all over again, they would do it different. It happens that sometimes we make mistakes and we regret. We realize that it should have been done differently. Regardless of whether it's a relationship issue with someone, a friend, a child, a spouse, or a business matter, there are things that we wish we could take back. We wish we could do it all over again and do it better. But that opportunity does not always present itself. And that is why Shlomo Melech tells us, "Me'uvat lo yuchal litkon." There are certain things, he says, that you cannot repair. Things that have become so twisted that you cannot repair. Some things that are lacking, that have been missed, as we call them, missed opportunities, can no longer be counted, or can no longer be completed, can no longer be fulfilled. Missed opportunities, we've had them at times, and we cannot bring them back again. He describes this very painful experience that many people have, many of us have had, of whether it's a mistake or a missed opportunity, because he is reminding us that ha'adamu bal bechira, the human being does have free will to an extent. He does make decisions from time to time, and these decisions have consequences. Man is the only one who has the ability to ruin this world, lekalkel. He has therefore the ability, listot min haderech, to deviate from the right path, to do things that are not intended for him to do.
Well, they help. The nature help sometimes. The tsunami, for instance.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that too. But there are things that happen in life where, of course, we have no control over, and we'll talk about that at a separate time. But here he's making a point to emphasize it is those situations that are not reversible, those situations that we are responsible for, in those areas that we do have free will, where our decisions can make a big difference, big difference. And if you catch the wrong decision on time, of course, you can sometimes repair it. But I'm going to mention a few that the rabbis talk about that are so difficult and that are almost irreversible, and they are the ones that are the most painful of all. In the same way that he speaks about actions that are very difficult to correct, he speaks about time that is lost, time that has been wasted, time that has not been put to good use. How could you ever bring back the time? A day that's gone by is gone by. As we say in Arabic, illifat mat. You know, that which is gone is gone. You cannot bring it back. And of course, these situations that are irreversible, because many of them have consequences, those consequences, are beyond our control. Once we have done something, once we have said something, right? How is it possible to correct it? How is it possible to bring back that situation and start all over again? But nonetheless, it is possible to do some work, some repair work, as long as we're alive. As the famous story with Rabbi Salanter that I've told several times, it pays to repeat. When he once arrived at a city, it was very late at night. People were asleep. But even though it was dark everywhere, he did notice a small light coming out from a little hut. He approached that little hut, knocked on the door, and sure enough, of course he was Jewish, and there was a candle. There was no electricity back then. And Rabbi Salanter was surprised to see this man fully awake with a candle. So he asks him, "What are you doing up so late?" He says, "Rabbi, I'm a shoemaker, and as long as the candle is still lit, I can still manage to do some repair work." As soon as he heard that, he was shocked. He didn't hear anything very surprising. It was nothing new to him. But as they say in English, it hit home. To him, this was a lesson. Words we sometimes hear maybe a message from Shamayim. Why did we hear these words? Why did our eyes observe something that they observed? It's min Hashamayim. We had to see something, we had to hear something. So his first observation or his first reaction was shock. He says, you know what? This just reminds me, as long as the neshama, which is compared to a candle, is still lit, it's still alive, if sharot letaken, you can still do repair work, which is teshuvah, which is repentance. In other words, there are certain areas in life that are within our reach. In other words, we can go and reach out to them and try to do some repair work as long as we're alive. Shlomo Melech, in talking about that which is me'uvat, that which is twisted, that which is completely gone, is also referencing an important chazal. The rabbis tell us that mishetarach be'erev Shabbat, yavo v'yochal b'Shabbat. Whoever worked hard on Friday will have what to eat on Shabbat. Right? If you waste your time on Friday, you're doing something other than preparing for Shabbat. Comes Shabbat, we can't cook on Shabbat. So one who has done his preparations on time, on Erev Shabbat, this world is called Erev Shabbat. The world to come is called Shabbat, Menucha, is the time of rest. But whoever prepares himself now, he involves himself with mitzvot and good deeds, then he will have what to benefit from in Olam Haba, in Olam Haimet. So this is the time of action, this is the time of performance, to perform, to prepare ourselves, and if we do so, then we will have what to eat. After one's petira, after one's passing, it's too late. Even if one realizes the truth, and which we all do when we get up there, and we feel so bad about the waste of time, it's too late. You can't just go back. No, can you send me back? I still have something to do. No. It's too late. This is the time to do it. Afterwards, there's just no way that we can do. Yeah, those who have had a near-death experience, Mavet Klini as it's called in Hebrew, of course, were given an extension, were given a second chance. So you're right, there are some exceptions. But those exceptions were not complete death. A person who has completely died has never come back. Those who have come back, they went there, but they were not completely there.
So what about the always said that the neshama coming down to like a dog or something?
No, those are gilgulim. There are various reincarnations, which is another form of life. The typical gilgul is in another human being, which is a second life. So it's good you brought that up, because gilgul, actually, reincarnation, is another opportunity to do the repair work for what we did wrong or what we missed out in the previous lifetime. So that's true. We've spoken a lot about Gilgulei Neshamot, the purpose of it. People are surprised, especially if they hear it the first time, oh, I thought that was Hinduism. Well, where did they take it from? They take it all from us. So reincarnation actually is a very, very big topic, and it helps us explain a lot of the areas that are mysterious to us in life. And perhaps later on in Kohelet we'll touch on it too. But it's good you raised it now, because Gilgul Neshamot, in a sense, is a form of repair work that is divine in nature. In other words, divine meaning that Hashem gives us the chance and opportunity and the tools and the circumstances to be able to do that which we did not do right. For whatever reason, maybe it wasn't our fault. Imagine a Jew growing up in Siberia because his parents were working for their Russian railroad company. How is he? There's not even a Chabad over there. How's he going to know about Torah and mitzvot? You think he comes upstairs and they don't let him in? You say, they're not going to let him in because he doesn't have enough merits. But he's going to say, it's not my fault. I said, you're right. What can we do about it? He says, don't worry about it. You're going to get a round-trip ticket for free. Send you back, right down. And this time you're going to be born in Bnei Brak or in Mea She'arim, right? Don't worry about it. You'll have a good upbringing. The first time around, what can we do? Jews are scattered all over the world. And many, many times it's not their fault.
Rabbi, if there's this concept, and there's also a concept that Hashem, when Mashiach comes, is going to raise the dead, which body is going to rise from which soul?
The answer to that is in the lecture, Gilgulei Neshamot.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know if I should go over that, but briefly, those people who've had several lives, which many of us have had, in various Gilgulim, all of the bodies, if they were positive, in other words, if they were good, if they did actually something good, they contributed, they all rise, and they all share a part of the neshama. Like a candle, you can light many candles with the original candle, right? So we all have other lives, other bodies, and most of them hopefully will rise Tchiyat HaMetim. And you'll recognize each other, like brothers recognize each other. In other words, in the other previous lifetime, perhaps you were Ashkenaz, right? Yeah, and you spoke Yiddish. Yeah? Who knows? It all depends, of course, where and when you were here. It could have been you were here hundreds of years ago, not necessarily recently. So that's, of course, a big topic.
It can be not Jewish lifetime?
No. 99,
It can't be not
99.9%. I didn't say 100%. 99.9% a Jew goes back to a Jew. There are sometimes tikkunim, where a Jew goes into a non-Jewish body or goes into an animal or a bird. But that is a temporary tikkun, an atonement for a very specific sin. But that's not your typical Gilgul. Because typical Gilgul means that this is a regular lifetime. Sometimes it doesn't last too long, but it's a regular lifetime where you are given a chance to complete whatever you did not have a chance to complete. Something happened. The person left this world before his time. So anyway, most of the time it's just coming back into another Jewish body. So, me'uvat lo yuchal litkon literally means there are things that are so twisted, beyond repair. What is the typical example? What is at least one example? The rabbis tell us that is one who has an affair with a woman that is forbidden to him, certain women that are forbidden, and as a result of that relationship, they produce a mamzer, a bastard. Not an illegitimate child. A mamzer is a bastard. What's a bastard? The product, the child of certain forbidden relationships, like incest, like a married woman, a man going with a married woman, right? If there is a child born, he is a mamzer. And a mamzer, as you know, is very, very limited. He's pretty much like an outcast. I mean, he can be a Talmid Chacham, he can be a very learned and very good person, but he cannot marry just about anyone except for a mamzeret, somebody like him, or a convert. Okay, but the children will be mamzerim too. So it's a very painful and difficult situation for him. And unfortunately, there have been such cases. Hopefully, there are not that many of them. The rabbis tell us mamzerim that we do not know of, we are not aware of, they die in all kinds of natural events. So shelo yitrabu. So they should not multiply amongst us and without us knowing us, because for us it is forbidden to marry them. But if we know who they are and they are identifiable, then they can have a long life. But as the Zohar points out, misken, a mamzer, poor fellow, even though there's a cheshbon, of course, of why this neshama, is born into a mamzer. Nevertheless, he's still a poor fellow because he has to suffer the consequences of the actions of the two sinners who brought him into this world. Yes? No. If it's an extramarital, in English that's... No. So, in other words, it's a sur for somebody to have an extramarital relationship. Extramarital meaning, I guess that's the right word. In other words, out of wedlock.
Adultery.
No, not adultery, really. Extramarital, in other words, it doesn't have to be that he's married, but in other words, two single people. And pnuim, right? For them to have a relationship is asur, because it's without chuppah and without kiddushim. But a child that's born from such a relationship is a perfectly kasher child, 100%. It's a little bit of a pagam, it's a little bit of a blemish. Not anyone may want to marry such a child, because it's not miyuchas, there's no yichus, in other words, there's no purity of lineage, and it's perhaps the mother didn't go to a mikveh. There's other issues with this child, but he's perfectly kasher. No problem whatsoever. He can marry just about anyone. So, but this is one example which is a very difficult situation, because a mamzer that comes into this world cannot undo his mamzerut. Right? He is what he is. What is mamzer? The word mamzer is mum zar. Mum, a defect, a blemish. Zar, strange, foreign, out of place. A woman that's married is connected to her husband, imagine through a pipe that they both have formed, through which the neshamot, the souls, will come down into this world. Comes along somebody who's outside of this union and tries to short circuit it by, coming in from the side. A short circuit is not a good thing if you know a little bit about electricity, right? It will create something different, something strange, a mumzar. It came from the outside. It's not the pipeline which is supposed to bring down ordinarily the souls. This is a pipe coming out from somewhere else. And therefore, it's a mamzer. Anyway, this terrible situation, this terrible and difficult situation, is lemaaseh truly beyond repair. However, let's say somebody did something like that. Let's say somebody killed someone. Can you bring him back? No. So what should you do now? So even though the rabbis tell us there are certain things beyond repair, certain things that are so painful and so difficult, don't be depressed about it. In other words, don't just pick up your hands and say, well, there's nothing I can do. You still should do whatever you can, as we say in Hebrew, lemaz'er, to, how would we say that in English? To diminish or to minimize the amount of damage, if it's possible. How do you minimize the amount of damage in murder? You support the widow and the orphans. You marry them off. You take care of them. You take it upon yourself. I mean, that's just one example. You can't bring back the dead person. You can't, unfortunately, undo what was done, but you can diminish or minimize if possible. So yi'ush, as it's called in Hebrew, giving up hope, depression, sadness, is definitely not a healthy reaction to any situation. No matter how bad it is, that's not what you're supposed to do. Some people just go and become drunk. They take drugs, they just want to forget about it. That's not a cure, just an escape route. Just like Chas v'Shalom suicide is. That does not cure the situation. It only brings the person in more trouble he doesn't even realize, he's not aware of. Suicide is an escape, but it's not a real escape. It's a borsha en lo tachtit, as we say. It's a bottomless pit. It's a terrible sin to throw away life, the most precious gift of all. So, a person who did, Chas v'Shalom, commit such a terrible crime that is one of those that is beyond repair, sort of called beyond repair, should not sink into depression, but should try to minimize the damage. And perhaps one idea that I would suggest is teach others about it. Talk about it. You know that when it comes to alcohol, people who have been addicted, one of the cures, I think, I'm told, I don't know, Baruch Hashem, I wasn't there, but from what I've read, is that they talk about it. One of them maybe, who's been around for a while, even tells them or shares with them his experience of what he went through, how it destroyed his life, how it ruined his career, how he lost everything, but how he was able to get out of it. Even though he may not be able to get his wife back, even though he may not be able to get his job back, maybe, but at least he's able to teach others. So if you did go through a difficult experience, that's one thing that can be done, is to teach others about it. Rabbi tells in Pirkei Avot ben Hamishim Le'etzah, once you reach 50, you've gone through enough in life that you may be capable of giving others advice. In other words, that's if you learn something from your experiences. In other words, at that point in life, hopefully you've seen enough, you realize what you did wrong, you realize that certain things were not necessarily right or proper. So at this point in life, maybe not only you can do things differently, you can also share the knowledge with others. That is a time of life. Before that, we're all so involved and crazy about certain things, running after money, running after this, running after that. Life is such a, I don't want to say mess, but it is some sort of a mess. Up until that point, kids are growing up, you have your teenage kids, you have all kinds of issues. You say, well, when am I going to retire? When am I going to finally sit down? And when I'm going to, there's every stage in life has its problems. You're finally, Baruch Hashem, done with the issues with kids. Now you have chas v'shalom, God forbid, medical problems of your own, because you've gotten to that stage in life. In other words, it's never calm. The seas of life are turbulent. And you have to know how to weather the storm. You have to know how to hold on and just navigate the boat as best as possible. But after a while, you have gone through a great deal in life, and you can give that advice to others so they should not repeat the same mistakes. One of the most difficult things to repair, one of the most painful and difficult things to repair, is a couple that has fought for many, many years. Couple, husband and wife, who've had many arguments. And, arguments lead to all kinds of unforeseen consequences. You don't even know what you're getting into sometimes. You say, well, I don't agree. Or you're going to yell. Or you're going to criticize. One thing could lead to another, however. You start with belittling her or belittling him, and then you go to her mother. And start belittling her mother. This is where you come from. You're just like her. Yeah. One thing leads to another. And then she tells him the same. Because for every action, there's a reaction. And people, when they get into a heated argument, they lose control. They're not using their sechel. They're not thinking about what they're going to say. They're just reaction. It's instinct. And when you react through instinct without thinking about it, you don't have control. There's no way you have control, not when you're angry. Anger is one of the worst midot that ever existed. Anger, it's like drunk. You can't drive while you're drunk. How could you? Not only can you get yourself in trouble, you can hurt other people too. So the anger is a form of drunkenness of the mind. Very, very similar, just a different kind. No alcohol involved. And
it's a self-destruction.
And I'm not saying that it's not permissible to argue. It's okay once a year to argue. Once a year. Once in a while, right? What happens with the arguments, the continuous arguments? If you don't make up, if a couple argues and they don't make up before they go to sleep that night, imagine somebody who has a wound. What happens to some wounds? There's a scab that grows over it, right? And there's somebody that is always rubbing it, the wound. He's never allowing it to heal. Let it heal. Then the scab will fall off. I think that's the way it works with scabs, right? It dries up. Always rubbing the same sore spot. It's never going to heal. It's always going to be sore. It's always going to be discolored, right? Don't rub it. Leave it alone. Let it heal. You have an argument. You had a disagreement about something. It could happen of all sorts of things. Men and women are so different. It happens. Right? So what do? At least make up. At least say, you know what? We had a terrible argument. We even yelled at each other. And, once upon a time, remember that honeymoon we had? Try to bring back the good days. It's just not nice what we just did. How many people do that? You'd be surprised, very few. It could be a problem with the ego. It could be a person so mad and still upset that he doesn't even think about the good moments they had. And you have to really control yourself. If you use your sechel, you are going to come down at some point, and you are going to go over if you're courageous too. You have to be, sechel is not enough. You have to be courageous. Whoever did it wrong, I'm sorry. And guess what? I have some news to tell you for those of you who are men. If the woman does not say I'm sorry, even though she's at fault, you do it anyway. Do it anyway. You be the initiator. The man has more koach to initiate than the woman does. The man therefore has to initiate. If you're going to wait for her to say I'm sorry, you're going to wait forever. It's never going to happen. Now, of course, some women are smart and they're going to say that. I'm not saying that it's a rule all the time. But don't wait for the other one to do it, because you want to get it over with. You want to go on to the next step. You want to just continue to live normally. So a fight that has been going on for many years, what's many years? It could be 5 to 10 years. I'm not talking about 20 years. Now they're so disgusted with each other, they've lost feeling for each other. They finally take the advice of someone. Why don't you guys go to a marriage counselor? That marriage counselor is not going to help them. Many times. Sometimes yes, but many times no. Why? The guy's going to say, I don't like her anymore. She's going to say, I lost feelings for him. I don't respect him anymore after all he said and has done. I don't blame her, I don't blame him, right? If you wait so many years to go and get help, and why do I say get help? Because as rabbis tell us, en chavush matir atzmo. A prisoner himself cannot release himself from jail. You sometimes need somebody on the outside to get you out of jail. Well, we're sometimes in a jail, the jail of our midot, of our character, bad character, and we don't know how to get out of it. So you need somebody, come, let me show you the way. This is no good. This is how to do it. This is how to talk to a woman. You have to learn women language. And today many men are not fluent enough in that language. Neither are the women fluent in the man's language. It's like they're talking two different languages. Imagine a woman coming home. Honey, what do you say about this new pair of shoes? And it didn't cost you that much, only $250. What do you say? Doesn't it match? And the husband is so upset. Not only did he have a bad day, he says, I just counted 55 pairs of shoes in your closet the other day. What do you need another pair of shoes for? But this matches so good with this. But what about, you had the same exact color shoes. Oh, that one is out of style. Out of style, you just wore it 6 months ago. Yeah, it's out of style 6 months ago. Now, if you're a man and you try to figure that out, forget it, just forget it. Leave it alone. You'll never will. You never will. People, are different, and men and women are very, very different. And you have to learn. You really have to learn these things.
Women love shoes.
Men that love shoes?
Yeah,
well, they probably belong in a
And
museum,
why
these
do
men.
they belong?
These men belong in a museum. They're very rare. Most average men have 2.5 pairs. Why did I say a half? One of them they only wear on Yom Kippur. One is for the week, one is for Shabbat. Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av, I should say. Yeah. Okay. So therefore, a couple that has had a big fight for a long time, how are they going to heal? What's worse than a couple that has had a big fight? What's worse than that is a divorce that could have been avoided. They could have prevented it had they invested in themselves, had they done the right things, had they gotten the help, had they learned about their problems and the issues, have they learned how to deal with it. We could have avoided altogether the divorce. And most divorces fall under this category. There are divorces, which the Torah says, mitzvah legarish. A woman that betrayed the trust and cheated on her husband. I have to be fair to the women. A husband who also did the wrong thing and went with someone else, she's entitled to not live like this. She doesn't have to get divorced, right? But there are situations which you can save. They're salvageable, right? Some difficult situations are so beyond repair. There's so much fighting going in the house. The kids are really suffering. Then sometimes it's just better to separate the two. Maybe not divorce or so. There are situations, and I'm not going to say it's always not a good idea, but there are very few, that the divorce is just the right thing. This couple is just not going to work out. But you know what? The vast majority of them, I don't know percentage, but the vast majority of them can work out. Even if they're not exactly Romeo and Juliet, they call them. Those, whatever, couple that really supposedly like it. Even though they're not necessarily so crazy about each other, they can still have a very good working relationship where they can raise the kids in a healthy home, where each one recognizes his or her role. You do this, I do that, this is what we do together. It's possible. They still have to learn the rules. So the majority could have been saved, but people do not invest. People do not know how to seek help, when to seek help. And because of the many mistakes people make, it sometimes becomes so unmanageable that they think the best and easiest cure is divorce. They don't realize that the second marriage with someone else, who's not necessarily their soulmate, is not going to necessarily be any better. There are exceptions to that too. But many times, this one has this strengths and weaknesses. That one has those strengths and weaknesses. You want to exchange. You want to have those weaknesses. And so, it's not necessarily a good exchange. What's the worst in a divorce? A Kohen that gets divorced. A Kohen. Why? Because the person who got divorced from his wife, haven't you heard the situations where they went back and got married? I know one who got divorced 3 times from his wife, and they got married every. You know, he must have been Moroccan. You know, he got upset, got divorced, remarried when he calmed down, got divorced.
Really like weddings.
But if it's a Kohen, if a Kohen makes that mistake and he gets divorced from his wife and then regrets it, he can't marry back his own wife.
Wow.
A Kohen asur begrusha. Even his own grusha, he's asur. So he has to be careful 1,000 times before he goes to the Beit Din.
Can he marry someone else?
Yeah, if she wants him. Yeah, you know, Kohanim sometimes have a temper. A Kohen that comes to Beit Din to seek divorce, they push him off for a month because maybe he's very upset.
Yeah, cool it down.
Cool it down. They don't want to give him the divorce now because if he changes his mind tomorrow, forget it's too late.
But Aharon was a peacemaker. How did Kohanim have?
Well, Aaron was the first Kohen.
Yeah, but he was a peacemaker. How
Yeah.
did they have tempers?
No, it's not really a temper. Kohanim, the rabbis tell us, are zrizim. They're very quick. So sometimes they're impulsive. They make quick decisions. They don't. That comes from the midah of zrizut. It's not really a temper, but it could lead to temper. You know, because you get angry quickly. It's all from zrizut. So that, you know, that kind of a situation needs even more caution if it involves Kohanim. The rabbis include another individual as an example of someone who is almost beyond repair, someone whose actions are so negative, so bad, that they're difficult to repair. And who is that one who used to learn Torah? Talmid Chacham, upiresh min Torah, and he moved away from the Torah. Why is that called Me'uvat lo yuchal litkon? Besides Me'uvat lo yuchal litkon, in the same pasuk you have the second part of the pasuk says, there are certain things, v'chesron lo yuchal lehimanot, there are certain things that you can't bring back, time that is lost, mitzvot, opportunities that have been missed. So it could be what the rabbis meant by this case of Me'uvat lo yuchal litkon, it could be that this individual, even if he eventually comes back, all those years that went by, that have missed opportunities, missed mitzvot, missed Torah, how are you going to bring back? How are you going to learn, make up for all the learning that you've missed? That could be one possibility. Another explanation of a person who's piresh min Torah, why he's so almost beyond repair, because so long as the Jew is attached to the Torah, he goes to courses, he goes to Shiurei Torah, he learns the Torah has the ability to bring him back, to remind him, to bring it to his attention. Listen, Talo beseder, you know, you did this terrible thing. Don't you realize that you're at fault? How is a Talmid Chacham going to accept criticism unless he learns it from a sefer? From others? Not so quickly, but from a sefer, from Torah, he may readily see his mistake. But if he's piresh min Torah, and then you have the Hilul Hashem problem for a person who was religious, who was learned, who is no longer religious or no longer studying Torah, it can cause a tremendous Hilul Hashem, desecration of God's name. And that is one of the worst avonot that has no teshuvah. Even if you do teshuvah, the kapara only comes about when he leaves this world. It's such a difficult avon. Because things that are done in public, how are you going to bring back the public? The same people who observed you, the same people that observe the terrible conduct, and fix it. So anytime there's Hilul Hashem, it's a very difficult avon to repair. And then you have, of course, you have Chinuch Yiladim. Chinuch Yiladim is an important area, the education of one's children, bring them up properly. You only have so many years to do it. Imagine somebody at the age of 58. Somebody at the age of 58 who does teshuvah. We're very happy for him. Baruch Hashem, he found himself, his wife too, decides to cover her hair, they keep Shabbat, and so forth. Everything is very nice. But you know, they've raised children for the past 35 years. Approximately 35 years. I got married at 23, he's 58. Those kids, how are you going to bring them back? They have their own free will. They're men, they're adults. You can't influence them so easily. Come, do as I did. Ma pitom, Abba. He might even belittle his father. He might even make fun of it if he's not respectful of his parents. But even if he's respectful, you think you can convince him? He's already married a girl who may not be interested, and he likes his wife, of course, and he doesn't want to ruin his marriage just because his parents did something weird, according to her, according to his wife, right? it's very difficult to bring them back. So a person who did teshuvah later in his years, how is he going to educate his kids? So when a person becomes strong in his earlier years and he has influence over the children, it's going to make a big difference. So don't postpone your teshuvah or the positive change that you want to do until later on in life. Because even if it's acceptable, well, you've lost the opportunity to give it over to your children. And so therefore, chinuch yiladim is time critical, that it be done in the right time. Okay, a person has lived his life and did not do everything that he was intended to do, that he was supposed to do, missed opportunities. He was aware, but he just never got around to it. He pushed things off, and he passed away from this world. What now? As you know, after the petira, after one's death, there's nothing one can do for himself. But those who remain behind, one's children, one's relatives, one's close friends, can contribute a little bit to what is called in Hebrew, aliyah la neshama. Aliyah means that the neshama should have a boost. It should elevate itself step by step until it reaches makom menuchata, until it reaches its final resting place. And that may take a little bit of time, by the way. When the neshama departs from this world, it doesn't just go to its final resting place. There are many, many stages, including reincarnation even, sometimes. It has to come back. No, you're not ready. Oh, but I worked so hard, I want to go rest, I want to die. No, it's not time yet. You need cleansing, maybe a little bit of gehenom, a little bit of other things, right? So the neshama does not always go to makom menuchata, to its final resting place. And sometimes we need to help her. That is the importance of saying the Kaddish. That is the importance of learning Mishnayot and giving tzedakah le'ilui ha-neshama, for the elevation of the neshama. In other words, those who stay behind can do something for the neshama. The neshama itself can no longer do anything for itself, but those simply can do something. I say something because you can't do a lot. Only the individual himself. But those that stay behind can contribute in a meaningful way. Kaddish, we know traditionally, is very, very powerful. How does it work? We don't really know why saying Kaddish, words of Kaddish, is so powerful. But we know, because it's a connection. The words of the Kaddish connects us with that soul. It has to do with words of Emunah, words about Chiyat HaMetim, about Kiddush Hashem. For that neshama, in other words, saying the Kaddish for that neshama, it's like doing something that connects her with it, as we call it in Hebrew, the tzror hachayim, the eternal life. In other words, the neshama is detached from the physical world. It's no longer with a goof. But we don't want it to be detached from the eternal life. We want it to be closer to Shekhinah. We want it to join Am Yisrael. We wanted her to be part of us, of Am Yisrael as she was. So there are certain things that we can do that Min HaShamayim they allow for. And that is Kaddish, Tzedakah. When we say Leilui Neshama, we make Berachot, and we say this is Leilui Neshama. Or any other Maaseh Tov, a good deed, that we say this is Leilui Neshama, we write a Sefer Torah. Sometimes, kids do that, for a father. They're not obligated, but it's another additional boost for the neshama. But the biggest and most important thing we can do for parents as children is to behave ourselves. So they shouldn't be embarrassed with the emissaries that they've left behind, the ambassadors. Because kids are the continuation, they are the legs of the niftarim. And if they behave themselves, then that in itself, their behavior, their life, is a tremendous source of nahat, of pride and happiness for the neshamot. Otherwise, it could be a source of embarrassment, very painful embarrassment, if the kids do not follow the path of the parents. So the behavior of the kids is very, very important. We talked about things that are difficult to repair. Let's not forget that one of the things that are the most difficult to repair is lashon hara, or things that come out of our mouth. Because once, as long as the word is in our mouth, we control it. Once it leaves our mouth, it controls us, right? Things that come out of the mouth, whether they are elbonot, insults, bushot, that bring shame to people, lashon hara, which is the worst of all. Not only do they cause tremendous damage to people, it's a kind of damage that you can't easily repair. Take it back. How do you fix it? Oh, I'm sorry. No, sorry doesn't work here anymore. So many people have heard it. You've given somebody a terrible reputation. And even if that reputation is already known all over the world, by the way, it doesn't mean that you should talk negative about people. Talking negatively is a form of lashon hara, even if it's already known. It's still not right. It's a sur. It's a wrong behavior. Even though the reputation is there, you don't want to make it worse. You don't want it to really sink in. If anything, if it's at all possible, you want to give people the benefit of the doubt to take away a little bit of the bad reputation. That is special. But there are people who are so tempted to talk. They're either talkative in nature, or they just have something bad to say about someone. It's very, very tempting. You have to be very careful. Unless, of course, there is permission to say something. Sometimes you want to save someone, protect him from somebody who is a criminal. Or in shidduchim, you sometimes have to say something to protect someone from dating someone that is not fit for them. That's different. There are halachot in lashon hara, and one should really learn them, especially if he has any doubts. Otherwise, you're better to be safe and not say something that is questionable. Then there are things that are repairable. Just to say, I want to say a couple words about those things that are repairable. There are situations that we can fix. Whatever they may be, whether it's a kesher with a friend that became sour, or a spouse relationship that is still repairable. Anytime something is repairable, make sure you don't postpone it. You do it as soon as possible. It is repairable, good. But if you wait, it loses some of its effect. Oh, now you're coming? Now when you need me? Or now, what happened? You just remembered? In other words, it loses a little bit of its effect. The faster we do it, the faster we take care of it, is better. The rabbis tell us something very incredible in the Gemara. The words are approximately like this. Kol mi shechata, whoever sinned, umiyad mitcharet alav, umiyad mitcharet ala maaseh, he immediately regrets and feels remorseful. Eno zaz misham ad shemochalim lo. In other words, they immediately will forgive him. What does that mean? Immediately forgive him? Don't we have Yom Kippurim? So I don't want to get into the topic of what's the difference between seliha, mechila, and kapara, which is a different topic. I'll just say what mechila is. Mechila is a very important part of the teshuvah process. When a person commits a wrong, he has a kategor, he has an accusing angel accusing him. And if we have too many accusations or powerful accusations, they prevent us from getting married, they prevent us from succeeding in our business sometimes, they prevent us from having a beracha in the house, whether it's children. They can prevent these kategorim, this mekatregim, can stand in the way. We want to make sure we don't have them. What's one of the ways to remove a kategor? The way you remove a prosecution in court. You come to court, Your Honor, I don't want to waste the court's time, I'm guilty. The prosecution can go home. The jury for sure has no reason to come. That's it, it's over. A person who immediately feels bad, he's ashamed, immediately after he did something, sotem lo tapeh, he shuts the mouth of the mekatreg. That's the pshat, that's the pirush. Mochalim lo, they forgive him. Forgiven does not mean that they atone and cleanse him of his sin. He still has to pay a knas, or whatever, a penalty. But at least they're not going to prosecute him, they're not going to be standing in his way. Look at this guy. He never said, I'm sorry, he never regretted what he did. That's chutzpah. A person who does not regret, does not say, I'm sorry for something that he should, it's a form of chutzpah. Unless, of course, he doesn't really think that it was a problem. But then you have to really think about it. But if he comes to terms with it, and he really feels bad about it, it's very powerful. So something that is done right away, something that is not done with too much delay, is a lot more effective. Take, for example, a company that just, Toyota. I heard Toyota had a recall. When something comes out defective, they recall it. They're supposed to. Why do they recall the car? Anybody know? Why does a company recall the car?
Save the reputation.
What?
Save the reputation.
Okay, could be the reputation. What else?
Damages.
More being sued.
There could be more lawsuits eventually. They better, right? The more damage can come out of it, and perhaps more risk, depending on what the problem is. If they're smart, they recall the product and they fix it, right? A person realized that something he did was bad. If at all possible, recall it. In other words, take it back, try to do it differently next time. And if a person does many, many terrible things wrong, and he doesn't recall it, they may recall him. So, yeah, defective product, we have to recall it. So you want to recall your own actions, if possible, the sooner the better. Okay, let's now talk about a very important point. Shlomo Melech is telling us about life. He's talking about the issues that come up, recurring issues. People make mistakes. Some people don't repair those mistakes. He didn't tell us yet, he may tell us in different words later on, why don't people go about trying to repair a wrong when they know it's a wrong? What's the reason behind that? Why do people make mistakes to begin with? That will explain a little bit why they also do not take the steps necessary to repair. Why do people make mistakes? Again, why do people make mistakes? And therefore, for the same reason, why don't people take whatever necessary steps once they know it's a mistake to repair the mistake? They just don't. Most people don't. What's the answer to that? I made it easier for you. I asked you, why do people make mistakes to begin with? And that will help you understand why they don't also take the steps necessary to repair it. Why do people make mistakes? No, mistakes.
They don't think correctly.
Okay, you're getting close. They don't think correctly. This past week we read Parashat Vayikra. In Parashat Vayikra we're being introduced to korbanot, sacrifices. One of the most common sacrifices that unfortunately was a necessity during the time of the Beit HaMikdash was a korban chatat. A korban chatat was an animal that was brought, doesn't have to be always an animal, but that was brought for a sin that was committed bishgaga, unintentional. Something that is intentional is too serious of an avon, and for that there's no real korban. Korbanot, especially chatat, was for something that was done bishgaga, unintentionally. I have to bring a korban for ishgaga? Let me ask you a question. If you were speeding by mistake, are you going to get a ticket? Yes. Oh, Your Honor, the speedometer wasn't working, or whatever. You can't get away with that. Oh, I didn't see the red light. They don't care. What are they going to tell you?
Should have taken measurements not to make mistakes.
No, not necessarily. What is it? The law is the law. That's not a good enough answer. You tell the officer asking, why were you speeding? Oh, I was just going with the flow. Yeah, people say that. Yeah, they were just going with the flow. Would you go with the flow if there's a cliff there too? They're going down the cliff. Would you go over the cliff with the flow? You go with the flow. You're not paying attention. You're not reading the signs. You're not careful. That is why, or you don't care. Right? There's all kinds of reasons. The common denominator, as we say in here, the common denominator of why people make mistakes is because of why we bring a korban chataf or ishgaga. And the reason was, asita maaseh behema. You bring an animal because you acted like an animal. I acted like an animal? Yeah, an animal does not have brains. En la sechel. You acted in an irresponsible way. A human being is supposed to act responsibly. And to act responsibly, you're supposed to use your sechel. You're supposed to think through situations. And because we sometimes take things too lightly, chafif, easygoing, we don't take something too seriously, we make mistakes, all kinds of mistakes. If people would take life seriously, if they realize how responsible they need to be, they will be more careful. And that is why the first midah, if you read Sefer Mesilat Yesharim, in personal growth, you want to grow, we all want to grow, we want to get to the top, the highest level, the very first midah is zehirut. Caution. A person has to be cautious, a person has to be serious, he has to take life seriously.
From the thief,
Yeah. So in order to do that, in order for a person to be cautious, in order for a person to be responsible and serious, he really has to get to know himself. Adam tzarich lakir et atzmo. He has to get to know himself, his migraot, his faults, his weaknesses. You have to get to know yourself a little bit. Once you get to know yourself and you realize, this is the way I am, I'm not going to get anything done if I'm a procrastinator. Imagine somebody who's a procrastinator, or somebody that has some other problem, right? He has a temper. He has an issue. He has to find a way to deal with his problems. If he doesn't do anything about it, he just allows nature to take its course, he's going to make mistakes. He's for sure. The instincts, the irresponsibility, the lack of being cautious. So therefore, a person has to be cautious. It's something an animal cannot be. So asita maseh behema, therefore symbolically tavi behema. Symbolically bring an animal as a sacrifice. It's only symbolically. The essence of teshuvah is still harata, still regret. It's still feeling bad. It's still committing yourself not to do it again. That's the essence of teshuvah. But during the time of the Bet HaMikdash, you were told, bring an animal to remind yourself, next time don't act like an animal. Act responsibly. And to do that, of course, you have to be cautious. You have to think about your actions. So what happens in real life? In real life, because so many people are shkuim or tov'im b'yam ha'hevel, they are sinking in the oceans of vanities, as Shlomo Melech calls it, hevel havalim. There's so many havalim in this world, so many gadgets. You know, it was interesting. I just got back from out of town, and I see people sitting next to me with all the latest gadgets. I don't even know what they're called. iPod, MP3, with buttons and moving the screens. You know, the latest things that cost $400 when they come out and they go down in price 6 months later. You know, but people have to have the latest one. You know, and I see what they're doing. I could do the same thing with the other little devices that are less expensive. These all shtuyot, the vanities. Do they really need them? No, it's a craze. You know what a craze is? You know, a style. People do it because other people have it. I have to have it. It's nice, it's cute. Is it worth the $400 or whatever it costs? Not necessarily, but that's how they make their money, the companies. People are so detached from the Metziut, from reality, because they're so sinking in the yam, I call it the yam of Hevel, the ocean of vanities. All these things are occupying their mind. Getting this car, remodeling their kitchen. What kind of a countertop do you want? That's nice, it's okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but what happens is a person is overwhelmed sometimes with havalim. You know, I didn't say that every hevel is bad. Again, you can have a nice home, you can have a comfortable home, and have a beautiful kitchen. Everything is okay and nice, but be careful not to sink in this hevel, because this is not reality. This is just a fantasy. This is just something that comes and goes. This is all hevel. Air, just air, vapor, disappears after a while. And because of that, because people are so drowning in this hevel, they are menutakim, they are detached from real metziut, from real reality. Until what happens? Until the tsunami comes and takes them. Right? They're drowning in the hevel, and then, they don't pay attention. They don't realize. You know what happens when there's a big earthquake lately in the world? Wherever there could be a tsunami, there's a big siren. And the siren is basically telling you, go to higher ground. Some people weren't listening. Some people didn't listen. They said, I have a few minutes. Those minutes cost them their lives. So people are drowning. I'm thinking they're drowning, and there's no siren, I guess, for them. For a lot of people, there is nothing, no sirens sounding the horn. And they just get swept away. And before they realize it, they're in an old age home, convalescent hospital, or they're dead. What does a Jew have that the rest of the world does not have? A Jew has a lifesaver. You know, when a person is drowning or in the ocean because the boat capsized, he can have a tremendous help from those lifesavers. You know, from those, what do you call those? Chevel Hatzala.
Rafts.
You know those, they use them in swimming pools.
No.
You know, that you wear them. I think they're lifesavers. Yeah. No, not necessarily a jacket. There are all kinds of things that can help you save your life, but you have to hold on to it, right? So Shlomo Melech reminds us in his other book, in Mishlei, Ki lekach tov natati lachem, torati al ta'azovu. I gave you a very very special gift. The Torah, a lifesaver. Al ta'zovu. Don't let go of it. If you have the Torah, this will save you. This will keep you afloat in this world, in the sea of vanities. Before we go on to the last few Pesukim of the Perek, which are very short, I just put together 5 sayings, quotes, about time that I thought were very, very nice and relevant. Here goes one. For every minute spent in organizing, an hour is earned. For every minute spent in organizing your day, organizing what you have to do, an hour is earned. In other words, you will have gained so much if you organize your day, organize yourself, knew what you have to do. Organization is definitely one of the tools for time management. Knowing what you're going to do, making a list of things. So for every minute spent in organizing, an hour is earned. That's the saying, the quote. Maybe even more than an hour. In other words, you earn a lot. Irvacht arbeh, if you made a seder. Next one. Time is free, but it's priceless. You can't own it, but you can use it. You can't keep it, but you can spend it. Once you've lost it, you can never get it back. Obviously, I mean, that's what he's telling about when he says the words, "Chisaron lo yuchal limanot," you can't bring it back. Next one. Yesterday is a canceled check. Tomorrow is a promissory note. Today is the only cash you have, so spend it wisely. Okay? Today is the only time you really, really have. Tomorrow, who knows what will happen. It's a promissory note. Yesterday, it's a canceled check. Chabal hazman. It's already forgotten. Today is the only cash you have, so spend it wisely. And then we have the famous saying, better late than never. But never late is better. Right? Better late than never, but never late is better. So even though it's late, even though a person is older, even though a person made the wrong moves throughout his life, better late than never. And the next one is Thomas Jefferson, that it helps us understand a little bit what I was asking about, why people don't just do the right thing after they know what they did was wrong. Listen to this one. It's very true. It takes time to persuade men to do even what is for their own good. Did you hear that? It takes time to persuade men to do even what is for their own good. It still takes time to persuade them. It shouldn't, but it does. You really want to get somebody to do the right thing. He knows it's good for him. You may have to do it over and over again until you, B'ezrat Hashem, succeed. People on their own sometimes don't have the intelligence, the strength, or the motivation, whatever it may be, to just pull themselves out of this misery, out of the trouble. So, people may know something is right for them, something is good for them, but they need persuasion. And persuasion has to come from the outside. The last Pesukim, Kohelet tells us on what he decided to do when he saw that so many people are doing the wrong things, making mistakes. So he says like this, Dibarti ani al im libi lemor, I spoke to myself and I said as follows, Ani hine igdalti v'osafti chokhmah al kol asher haya lefanai Yerushalayim. I've increased my wisdom and I learned more than anybody who was here before me. V'libi ra'ah harbe chokhmah v'da'at. And I saw a lot of chokhmah and da'at. What is he talking about here? He's talking about that he took it upon himself to learn many, many chokhmot besides Torah. Chokhmot ha'olam, chokhmot ha'teva, of nature. And what did he conclude after learning so much? That it didn't help him. It only brought him more pain, heartache. And he says like this, I wanted to become knowledgeable and I wanted to see the difference between that which is wise and that which is folly, that which is a waste of time. And I realized that with all the chokhmah that I learned, it's rayon ruach. Rayon ruach means that it's just a bad idea. In other words, it was just as painful as not knowing it. In other words, what did I gain from learning all that I've learned. And this is a little puzzling. Why is it puzzling? Because here he's talking about Chokhmah. And he's going to tell us about the benefits of Chokhmah. And here he's telling us that there's some times that Chokhmah is not beneficial at all. It only gives him a heartache. There's a nice mashal that the rabbis tell us about two partners who ran a business together. But one of the partners was the one that was the more in charge. He knew the ins and outs of the business. He knew how much money was coming in, how much the expenses were. He managed all the financial affairs. The other partner didn't know anything that was going on. He was just, like they call it, a silent partner. But he got whatever he got. The wife of the silent partner began complaining to her husband, why don't you find out what's going on and see how much he's stealing from you? So he says, I'd rather not find out. In other words, I sleep well, Baruch Hashem, not knowing anything. I'd rather it stay this way. Oy vay voy, if I were to find out, then what will I find out? You know, bad things, it will just hurt me more. So sometimes it's better not knowing. That's what he's saying. Shlomo Melech is telling us now, and he'll tell us in the next perek, that even though Chokhmah is great, sometimes Chokhmah, depending on the type of Chokhmah, can be painful. The commentaries give another example. Imagine somebody who takes a course in human anatomy, how the food is digested, where it goes down in the kishkas, in the intestines, what happens to it, how it leaves the body, in what form it leaves the body, how it becomes a different form. He becomes disgusted after a while from all this. In other words, all that knowledge that he just gained was in some ways to his detriment. He says it became a little bit uneasy for him to realize now what happens in his body, for those people who are delicate and sensitive. He goes on to explain that all of this therefore brought him a tremendous anguish and pain. Why is that? Ki berov chokhmah rav ka'as v'yosif da'at yosif machov. The more knowledge one has, the more this can bring him ka'as, the more this can bring him anger. Why is that? Why should it bring him more anger? Maybe we should close the door here. Yeah. The reason for that is because sometimes when a person learns a lot, he only comes to the realization that he cannot know everything. And scientists in many areas have reached what's called a mavoy satum. A mavoy satum, a dead end. What now? What else is there to know? We can't figure this out. What next? And many of them have become depressed as a result. Many people, as a result of knowing certain things, and they're very knowledgeable about it, are traumatized, are just, not finding any solace in all this knowledge that they have. So he's pointing out that even chokhmah and yeda, even knowledge, is not necessarily something that is going to bring you happiness. Now, obviously, he's talking about the various philosophies and various knowledges in the world which are important, but they don't necessarily bring one happiness. And he's going to point out, we're going to see it later on, how sometimes the fools, the ones who are not knowledgeable, the ignorant people, are better off. You might think the chachamim, I'm talking about goyim right now, they're so knowledgeable, they know so much, they're definitely so happy. No, sometimes the simple people working in their field, milking cows, they're real pshutim, the simple, sometimes they're happier, they have a better marriage, they're not much better than all the movie stars who are making millions of dollars in Hollywood, much better than all the CEOs of big companies who have heart attacks and pressures and stress. The chachamim, that's not necessarily what's going to bring happiness. A lot of people actually go crazy, even though they're chachamim, they're knowledgeable. So the knowledge was not always helpful to them. When a person becomes very knowledgeable, he gets upset at other people. Why do they do this? Because he knows, and he realizes they don't know. It makes him very, very upset, and he therefore is more pained by it. One of the things that the commentators tell us about how a person becomes pained about knowing certain things is because of how people react to what they know. Do you know how people reacted when they heard about Madoff? Especially those who invested money with him.
Somebody committed suicide.
Yeah. People, he says, these are all called, the rabbis call these things, including that situation, Pig'ei Hazman. Pig'ei Hazman means the tribulations of the time. There are times in life, in history, where there are Pig'ei Hazman. Pig'ei Hazman is all kinds of ups and downs, the economy, the recession, people, tsunami, all kinds of things. They're called Pig'ei Hazman, the time. And including Madoff, including many scandals. You think it just happened? He's the new one? There's every generation. We learned En Chadash Tachat HaShemesh. There were always people like that. There were always crooks. There were always cronies. Cronies they called, yeah, right? Huh?
There always will be.
And there will be too, right? All kinds of scams, galore. Pig'ei Hazman. Pig'ei Hazman means all kinds of things that drive people crazy. They cause tremendous pain and frustration. And people have complaints. Why? How is this? How does Hashem allow this? What happened? What did I do to deserve it? People complain. People who become familiar or exposed to this kind of situation, they don't realize that this is all part of life. So here you have people who are knowledgeable, who are investors. How did I trust him? How did I do this? Lo yazor lecha. Don't feel bad about it. Don't get into it too much. Don't try to figure it out. You won't be able to figure out everything. The rabbis tell us in a humorous way, did you ever see a donkey catching a cold? Or suffering from arthritis? Or something else? He says, look at human beings, what they go through in life, what they suffer from, where these animals have it so easy. Just to finish off, when it comes to happiness, which is something, of course, that Shlomo Melech is going to talk about more at length, happiness does not come from chokhmah necessarily. The people have been great philosophers, people in the East, the Far East of Asia, who have tried to find the balance, the medium for which people can be happy. They tried yoga and meditation. All kinds of religions were formed to try to make sense of everything, make sense of life, and make people happy. And nothing really helped. Nothing really helped. And one of the best examples is what's going on in Japan today. The Japanese today are not religious like they used to be. Most of them are Buddhist, even though there's variations of that religion in Japan. The younger generation is very detached from their beliefs. That belief or that religion has some emphasis when it comes to death. There's a lot of rituals that go into time of death, spirits and so forth. But they have no explanation whatsoever on how to deal with tragedy. In the tragedy itself, they don't have. When this happened, an earthquake, a tsunami, they don't have a way to deal with it. The governor of Tokyo expressed an old saying that the older generation said. Maybe this is a shimbatsu. I think that was the word he used.
This is what?
A shimbatsu. Maybe this is divine retribution in Japanese. So he's the only one that tried to relate it, and then he said, I apologize, I take it back, he didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings that he said that, but he was trying to relate to it. The Japanese don't know what to do with it. How do you relate to some tragedy like that? How do you explain it? You don't have it. See, Am Yisrael is fortunate that we have the tremendous bitachon in the hashgacha of Hashem, that we trust in Him, that everything's for the good, that He looks over us, that He's involved. Somehow, we don't understand it, but at least we know He's involved. That makes a big difference. Because if you try to figure out everything on your own without the backing of some sort, you're going to go crazy. You can't. You can't figure it out. Look at Jews that are not religious, who are very detached from the Torah. They have a hard time making sense of the Holocaust. We who are religious, who learn Torah, don't fully understand it either, but at least we know how to deal with it somewhat, because the Torah talks about it. The Torah tells us what to do about it. We're more prepared for it. We know how to deal with it. So we are more capable of reaching simcha and shalva, happiness and calmness, as a result of our connection with Hashem. People who are going through yisurim, who are going through pain, and who have no connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, They're going to have a hard time. And there's a beautiful mashal about a woman who was pregnant, who tried to run away. So, she thought by running away, she's going to run away from her pain. She takes her baby wherever she goes. You can't run away from the pregnancy, right? From the chevle leda, from the ira. You can't run away from pregnancy. Can a person run away from his yisurin? If it's meant for him to die, even if he would have been on the moon at the time of the tsunami, not in one of those cities, it would have happened to him. It makes no difference where you are. If it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. That's part of our emunah in the Hashgacha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that helps us a little bit make some sense of what is happening. This is, of course, a big difference between our chokhmah or our Torah and the other chokhmot. All the chokhmot in the world, as much as they may be useful in some ways, he's not making fun of them completely. He wanted chokhmah. He asked for it, and he was very knowledgeable in many, many areas. But that chokhmah only brought him more pain, more frustration. In other words, that did not help him. It's only the Torah that can help one. That is why Shlomo Melech tells us again in Mishlei, Shma beni musar avicha ve'al titosh Torah imecha. Just listen to the musar of your father and don't let go of the Torah of your mother. In other words, don't let go of that Torah of your heritage. That is your only lifesaver, the only thing that you can cling to. Okay. Continue next week.